Just to kind of bring us back onto the page, we've been talking about the realities of the fact that the body is divided. The body has issues. The body is constantly running into this thing called division. There seems to be never a lack of, and when we go back even to Moses' time and earlier, you can see how there's division. There are factors and factions that come about that try to cause or do actually cause division in the body. Immaturity is evidenced by instability. A mature person is going to be stable. Okay, so if you find that there's a lot of instability, a lot of things that are unstable in your life, that's not to make you feel bad that you're like a baby or something. No, but there's an immature level, maybe an immaturity spiritually, physically, emotionally. There's some level of immaturity in us. And I think that we need to wear that so that we're not just thinking it's everybody else. All of us are struggling with levels of immaturity. If you're mad, you're not going to be able to do the works of righteousness. And by the way, I know that Christianity has issue with this, but Yaakov mentions that word work a lot. And he's expecting us to do our part. And our part is to do, and we call that works, but really it's our, as James is going to explain in chapter 2, although we might not read that chapter today, but he explains that works are simply the three-dimensional expression of your belief. If you're angry and people see all that anger, your works or your efforts are going to demonstrate that you're not in belief and you're not understanding the plan and purpose that the Father has for you. I have a question for you here, and I wrote into my notes here in verse 21. It says that you are to receive with meekness the implanted word. From whom are you receiving it? See, he's not saying that, of course, because we know that we receive the Ruach, that gift is given to us directly. So I don't think it's talking about just the receiving of the Ruach. I think he's talking about leadership and teachers and discipleship. See, Yaakov doesn't think it's a burdensome, terrible thing, the Torah. And it is very, very freeing if you can embrace it in the right way. Because what is it setting you free of? See, people don't understand what freedom is all about. They think that freedom means that you now can do whatever you want. He didn't set you free so you can do whatever you want. He set you free from the burdens and the suffering of sin. He set you free from the law of sin and death, which rages in your members. Keeping oneself unstained. See, we all understand the visiting orphans and taking care of the widows and that kind of thing, but what about this piece here, that you are responsible to keep you unstained? See, unfortunately, mainstream Christianity has, I'm not saying they've done it on purpose, but in their teachings, you get the sense that you do no longer have accountability. In other words, Messiah does it all for you, takes everything away, sets everything straight, and the individual responsibility for our own actions is somewhat, at least, diminished in being talked about, if at all. And this is a very, very harmful belief that is hurting people. So being stained by the world is when you start doing the things the world does and not the way the Father wants it done. What's worse is that we start to claim that the way the world is doing things is the Father's way of doing things. And we start to put his name on things that don't belong with his name on it, that should never have his name on it. Because things that are done in his name that really are not him. And we have to be careful with that. He's leading you. If you would only pay attention to that. I never mentioned that part of the verse that much, but I'll mention it today. Let's not forget that your journey, no matter where it went to get you to this point, he was leading you. Now, you didn't always follow. Sometimes you went off on your left and your rights, but eventually he'd get your attention, give you a little smack or something, wake you up and get you back on the path, headed eventually to where he needed to get you. Verse 3, and he humbled you and let you suffer hunger and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of Yahweh. So he lets you suffer, and by the way, this goes back to James chapter 1. You go through various trials that you're supposed to count joy. Why? Because you know that this is the purpose here. Therefore, the proving, for humbling and proving of your belief. Do you think that Yaakov understood Deuteronomy chapter 8? I'm pretty sure he did. This is the reason for the discipline. You're not getting all of this wonderful stuff if you're going to sit there acting like a 3-year-old and just me, I want, I need. I mean, come on, we've all been or know children that age. The reason they call them the terrible twos, right? 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds is because all they can think about is me, which is normal. Every kid does that. But if you're still doing that at 33 or 43 or 63, now we got a problem. We have to get totally past this selfish, self-conceit, me stuff. But they don't do everything the way I do. They don't see everything the way I do. Oh, do you know what calendar they keep? Do you know how they understand the nature of the Godhead? Do you know how they see the shape of the earth? Do you know how they feel about this or how they feel about that? Cut that all out. Can we not respect the other person where they're at is where they're at? And by the way, you could be wrong. Where's the humility? But emptied himself. Can you do that? I think you can. I just don't think you want to. Not only do I think you can, I think you have no choice. Because if you can't, you don't get in. Because you're not going to get there until you can empty yourself. You've got to empty yourself. In other words, get you out of the mix, out of the picture, the me, I don't like, I don't want, why is it this way, I don't want, why can't it be that way? He emptied himself. Work out your own salvation in fear and trembling. You don't have any responsibility to work out mine or the person next to you or your family members or anybody else. You ought to work out your own salvation in fear and trembling. And the fear and trembling should bring us back to Deuteronomy 10:12, which says, "And now, Israel, what does Yahweh want of you but to fear him?" He wants you to fear him and not everybody else.